longer the introduction, the older the person, so that it is always depressing to me to hear people go on and on and on, but thank you anyway. I want to do several things. Number one, I'm not going to talk more than 20, 25 minutes because I prefer to have conversation with you. Much of what I will say you've thought about before the report. You said it. I mean, we have had so many reports saying the same kinds of things. And what I will say to you essentially is this, that from my perspective, something Dan said that's really important. The idea of culture change is something we have not spent a lot of time talking about. There are people in this room, Liz and others that I've talked to about this, about the culture of the campus, though, the culture in engineering, the culture in STEM, the values we hold, the questions we ask, the expectations we have, who has power, how much attention have we given to analytics, to understanding. What does it take to make it in engineering on a campus? What's the background that one needs? Test scores are not everything, they are a part of it. There's no way you're going to come into somebody's engineering college with no background, at least in pre-calculus, if not in some in calculus, and make it in most predominantly white institutions for sure. Some HBCUs have worked hard and Hispanic serving to build up the background. But the question is, how far down can a student be academically and have a reasonable chance of succeeding when you've got large numbers of kids who come in with perfect math scores? These are the kinds of, and I saw that particularly at Illinois when, as a grad student, I would be working with kids, and I had little minority kids, black kids from Chicago, who always asked me, "You think I'm dumb?" They were valedictorians of their schools, came in and just competing against suburban kids, and it was very hard. So for 40 years, I've been focused on these issues. So I'll spend a few minutes on the report, a few minutes on the Meyerhoff program, but most important, I want to talk about some of the themes that I think that you've already talked about here, but that I can give you perspective on. And what is interesting, I start with a picture someone found recently. It was 50 years ago that I was sitting in the back of a church and heard a man say that if the kids get involved in this peaceful protest, America will understand that children really do want to get a good education. And since I was tired of getting the hand-me-down books from white schools and being told how inferior we were, I wanted to see what was possible. And so actually, it turns out I'm on this picture. I'm the little kid right here. Somebody said, "God, you look mean." I was so scared I didn't know what to do. You have no idea. Because we knew we were going to jail, and I was just a math nerd. All I could do was do math, all right, and eat blueberry pie. So the idea of going to jail was not one I liked, but I did want an education. I tell you this story because it is the historical context. 50 years ago, not quite 2%, at most 2% of blacks had gone to college, had graduated from college, about 11% of whites. And if you think about it, between that Children's March and the bombing of the church and the March on Washington, the movement moved along in this country. By 1964 and 65, you had legislation that made all the difference in the world, not just to blacks, but to people in general. If you think about it, because that Higher Education Act came out in 65, and all of a sudden, we started having more poor kids and middle-class people go to college. And think about it, 90% of Americans in the mid-60s had not graduated from college. And so the expectation that more students would go moved up. Now, at that time, few people knew what engineering was, and you had very few then. And percentage-wise, we still have a major challenge. And